What is up, everybody? Coming back to a new edition of FSP Overtime. You know how we do, giving you some extra content for you to listen to. Our side project from Fight Strength Podcast. You know how we do it. It's Jason Burgos, MMA journalist, and the main man, the bearded wonder, the Aristotle, the Plato of our show, Phil Daru. Phil, what is going on, man?
What's going on, brother? Hey, man, how come on FSP you sound a little bit more relaxed and laid back than we do on Fight Straight Podcast?
You know, because I don't got it. We're not doing the script. We're getting real chill. We're just
super cool. You all suave and shit. Like, he's like, hey, everybody.
I'm trying to bring
like,
personalities. You know, I'm trying to show the complexity of Jason Burgos.
Okay, I hear you.
So we're going to talk about a lot of topics, kind of like a MMA week in review. You know, talk about things that we don't get the chance to on our regular show. You know, we have a focus and a theme on Fight Strength, and we're going to get to the other side topics. Now, one of the topics of the week, which is a big deal, was it came up during the week that Michael Bisping made this statement, and let me look it up real quick. He made a statement in regards to at the George St. Pierre fight, and he said, "And yeah, I think the career I've had, the years I've been in the UFC, the injuries I've had, the ups and downs, getting close to title fights, and all of this, there's a possibility this may be my last ever fight. I don't know if I'll fight again after this, so what a way to go out it is." And it's interesting because a few months back, George St. Pierre also talked about, not as definitively, but he said if he lost again, he might retire. So, I mean, it's an interesting thing. This might be the last fight, unsuspectedly. We didn't know this a month ago for both guys, mattering how it plays out. You know, it makes sense. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think it would be a good end, and both guys it might be a good decision, either GSP lose or Michael Bisping just go out on a win kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's the only route that makes sense for them. You know, if GSP's coming back from a very long layoff, and everybody didn't understand why he actually left in the first place. You know, maybe I think it was a lot to do with his mental capabilities and things like that, because he used to really freak out before fights, and that's been known. He's stated that numerous times before fights. So it might be a mental thing for him. With Bisping, he's a lot of wear and tear, long time in the game. He's been in there for a long time. So, yeah, I feel like if he wants to go out with a bang, and to be honest, Bisping's title reign isn't really that impressive, you know. So if he wants to go ahead and all respect to him, you know what I'm saying. He's a true legend in the game, especially for the English guys. But yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea to actually leave after this one. Win or lose, it's a good career for him. He's got the title, and he got the title when people really didn't expect him to get the title. So I think it'll be a good idea for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's 38. He had a quite busy 2016, so he almost has earned the rest of 2017. He had 3 fights in 2016. And for his age, going to be 39 in February. I mean, George St. Pierre's, I can't believe that. Because, you know, when I started really following the sport, it was right around towards the time George St. Pierre got into the UFC. God, he's 36 now. He just turned 36, and he hasn't fought since 2013. That's crazy. He's going to fight in November. He fought November 16th, 2013. He hasn't fought in 4 years. So, I mean, yeah, you made a great point about his mental, you know, the build-up, and he always talked about, like you said, his fears going into fights, and he was always very honest, and that's what I always respected about him. And, you know, what's interesting is that it almost seemed like he lost the passion. Like, he was at the top so long. Like, it happens to a lot of amazingly great fights. You are at the top so long, you lose the hunger. Like, that you've been so successful, and it seemed like that happened to him because he was in much more closer fights. You know, it started with the Carlos Condit fight where he finally got rocked, and that was a close competitive fight. The Johnny Hendricks fight, a lot of people thought he might have lost. Like, he wasn't the same guy, and all of a sudden, by the end of his stint, he already had the longest minutes time in UFC history. I mean, that's a long time, and a lot of body wear and tear, and you also bring up with Michael Bisping and what he's done. I mean, I think that'll be the funniest thing. I mean, what's crazy, if he beats George St. Pierre somehow, which is very possible, he will have been a guy that beat Anderson Silva and George St. Pierre. Who would have thought, if that was to happen 3 or 4 years ago, if anybody did that, it would be Michael Bisping.
Yeah, it's just the way the fight game goes, though. You know, matches come and go. Like, look at this one that we're having right now. We got, I mean, my guy, Dustin Poirier, going against, you know, Pettis, who at the time they both, you know, now they're crossing paths, but one went to 45, the other one went back up to 55, and now they're both fighting at 55. So
what the heck happened to Anthony Pettis? What do you think happened to him? Like, do you think like the sport just got wise to him? Enough tape and enough stuff got out there on him?
Yeah, I think that I think the switch when he went to 45, I think that was just a bad idea in general. Yep. He was just kind of looking for a new way, maybe a new beginning. But yeah, it hasn't been right. I would say after maybe the Dosa, yeah, that's the one. That was really like a defining factor where you were like, damn, he's not really the guy he used to be. You know, that's not the guy that beat Ben Henderson. You know what I'm saying?
So he was on the Wheaties box. Like how? How far
you went from
the Wheaties box?
You really went. You really took it to the next or the bottom level from the Wheaties box to just, you know. But I mean, still, he's a main event. And he's fighting DP, so. I'm not gonna take it lightly by any means, but you know, it's a whole new game now. You know, and matches that you never thought would probably happen are happening. You know, and you never know, man. And look, Anderson still trying to fight. You know what I mean? So
yeah. I mean, why do you
see what happens there?
You're around so many fighters. This baffles my mind, and I don't.
Conor McGregor and Mayweather.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, but you know what? You know, I think it happened because of the sale of UFC, because they're so greedy for money now that they were willing to do that.
But that's what I'm saying though. Man, look at when Conor first got into the game. Would you ever think that he was gonna fight? You know, Floyd Mayweather?
Oh no, of course I don't think anybody in UFC was gonna fight him.
Exactly. So it doesn't. You know, you never know.
But I mean, talk about Pettis and that going down to 145. You know, moving away from top, and a transition to the next thing we're going to talk about. Like, you know, you're around so many top level athletes, but you're also around athletes as they get farther in their career, long in the tooth, so to speak. And I don't understand it. It's maddening to me. These fighters who are older, when it gets harder to cut weight, that often decide, I'm going to be the bigger man in a lower weight class. Perfect example, which has been a fucking nightmare, is BJ Penn going to 145. Like, you see that some Diego Sanchez going down to 145. I don't get it. Can you explain possibly the mentality of a fighter on why they would do that, man? Why would they cut weight so even harder later in life on the damage you can do to the liver and the kidneys? What's the purpose? If they really think they're better by going down?
Well, I hate to say this, but a lot of it had to do with USADA coming in and changing up what people do, because you know people can't even take supplements like rarely. It's a very fine line of what you can take and what you can't take. Also, you know, a lot of aging fighters that's still trying to be, you know, at the elite in the game, they're searching for any type of advantage they can possibly get. And if they can't have that advantage of being the most athletic, the fastest, the you know, the one with the most power, you know, things like that diminish over time. You know, they try to figure out what they can do to have an advantage. And if it's dropping a weight class and thinking that they're going to actually be the bigger man or woman, and that may be something that's in their mind of, okay, this could be an advantage, but it ends up, you know, ultimately being a disadvantage from the end. So
because they think, and it's even more surprising because we've seen the sport evolve so much, and we've seen so many guys that are smaller go up and have success on different levels. And yes, you're going to be the bigger person, but you're also going to be the slower person. And in this day and age, not even this day and age, in the history of fight sports, speed kills. And perfect example, again, go back to BJ. He looked ridiculous against Frankie Edgar, and he looked even more pathetic against Yair Rodriguez. Like, I felt bad watching it, and it's gonna leave a lasting memory on fans of the sport that are maybe got into it in the last 5 years. There was a time where BJ Penn was one of the best in the world. Like, I remember when he was gonna fight George St. Pierre, he was talking shit that once he beat George in the rematch, he was gonna go up and fight Anderson Silva. This is the balls on this man, but this is the thing. He was that good. You're like, fuck it. If he could beat George St. Pierre, maybe he could beat Anderson. And now he's like a shell of himself fighting at this lower weight class. Like, you know, it's crazy. But I mean, speaking of weight class, the other thing we were going to talk about is the story that came out a couple of days ago was Mizuto Hirota, who's supposed to fight on UFC Japan tonight against a guy you know, and Charles Rosa. he got pulled out, even though he did make weight, by officials for the UFC saying that for health and safety reasons, he was removed from the card because, once again, that's the story. Anytime in sport, and even seems even more lately, he had a really, really bad weight cut.
Basically.
What do you think? Like, for me as a fan, like, I'm not a big fan of the multiple weight classes. I totally get why it's a good idea and why it should happen. I just, as a fan, I love that the UFC is different from boxing and doesn't have so many weight classes. I myself would prefer the fight night, fight day weigh-in, so they have to be at a walk-around weight of the fight day. But what would you prefer? Would you prefer a fight day weigh-in? Would you prefer just more weight classes? Both?
You know what? It's tough to say, because during the same day wins, people are still going to try to gain an edge, no matter what time the weigh-ins are. So to be safe, I always do like to have a 24-hour weigh-in, but I do like the fact that I would like for more weight classes to be added on, for sure. It gives the fighters more opportunities, more fights, even better fights to actually come. So yeah, I think more weight classes and then the 24-hour weigh-ins. But I think the UFC is doing a better job now with the morning weigh-ins, is being a little bit easier than having to wait all day. Because when I was fighting, we had to wait pretty much from like that. If we were fighting on a Saturday, that Friday evening would be weigh-ins where you start cutting weight around Thursday night. So you have to cut all the way through that day, and then you have to wait all the way through to get your weigh-ins, and then do the standoffs and things like that. So you don't end up trying to rehire until about 8 or 9 o'clock. And so now you have to try to refuel your body throughout the night, and you're not getting any sleep. You have to wake up and pee and things like that, and it's just a lot of things. So doing it in the morning, you have the whole day to actually rehydrate, and then you can actually get some good sleep that night. So I think that's a great thing that they're doing. But also, I would like to see more weight classes.
Now, in your experience with dealing with weight cuts for fighters, you don't have to give names. What was probably the worst nightmarish situation you had of a tough weight cut with a fighter?
Sure, I actually had to cut one of my amateurs, and this is funny because it's an amateur fight, right? You wouldn't think it really mattered, but it was for a title. It was for a title fight, and the kid really wanted to win it, and obviously it meant something for him. It was like a local thing, and I had to, cut him from. I think he was weighing about 205, and the fight was at 170, but he was weighing 205.
Moly.
Wow. No, that's nothing. Really? But this is the problem. Yeah, this is the problem. He was 205 that Wednesday. Weigh-ins were Friday.
Wow.
So, and it wasn't like he was like like he had a lot of water on him. Let's put it like that. He was in shape, So I had to do everything and anything and everything to get this water off of him and get this weight off of him. So, basically all he was eating was egg whites and white fish with some asparagus every 4 to 5 hours. And then I would drown him in water for the Wednesday going into Thursday, to get as much water as we possibly can in. And then it was dandelion root and just sweating his ass off in a sauna suit, and going from a sauna session into a bath, back to a sauna session, back to a bath, and we would do these in 5-minute increments. We got the weight off. He made 171, and we rehydrated up pretty good. He wasn't the greatest he could be. Obviously, he had I would say he had a 30 to 40% decrease in performance due to that weight cut. But obviously, he came to me. And this was one of the first weight cuts I've ever done, believe it or not. And I was I think I was like maybe 20 or 21 years old. And and he came to me on that Tuesday night. He was like, Phil, I need some help. And I was like, all right, man, I'll see what I can do. And then another one I did, this was for one of my teammates. He was fighting for a local tournament. This was a pro fight. And in Florida, you have to be at weight. You can't be a pound over. So, yeah, it was a 155-pound tournament for this promotion called CFA down in Miami. And he came to me on a Sunday, and he was 190 pounds on Sunday.
Wow.
Mind you, weigh-ins are Thursday, and he has to be 155 pounds. Now, this dude that...
Why do they do that? Why don't they just... Is it amateurs they don't know?
No, to his defense... No, this one was a pro fight, but to his defense, he didn't know about the tournament till last minute. So he was eating pizza and all this other shit.
So then why did they do it then?
It was a lot of money, and it would help his career. So, and you got to understand, man, if you're a fighter and you're given an opportunity like that, you're going to take it no matter what, especially if your heart's in the game. So it is what it is. You got to make the weight no matter what. And, that was one of the first real weight cuts I had with a pro fighter, which ended up being a teammate of mine, so it was cool. And I had it all. You can actually look it up on my YouTube because I went through the whole process. We ended up actually getting it off, and he ended up being a half a pound under. So yeah. So I mean, it was, and that was another process of white fish, egg whites, asparagus, maybe a little bit of sweet potato here and there, but it was a lot of like grappling in the gi and a sweatsuit for about 3 or 4 days, and then it was all just trying to get as much water off of him as possible because he was around 6% body fat. There was no body fat on him, or at least there wasn't enough to take off without hindering performance and keeping him safe. So, I had to make sure that we were doing it the correct way, or as correct as possible for the time frame that I had.
I'm just glad that you confirmed for me that you are a gardener by mentioning dandelion root. My goodness, look at the skills. Dandelion root.
Yeah, I got it right out the garden, dog. Let me tell you.
So why is that dandelion root? Is that what you put in the bath water? I've seen like the videos where they put salt.
No, that's Epsom salt. So Epsom salt will help like pull out any toxins out of the body. It's also good for like when you're trying to recover from a hard training session or something like that. But with dandelion root is just like a natural diuretic that you can take. You can put it in a tea or it's in pill form, either way, or a capsule form, and usually that'll help kind of get the water off as safely as possible without getting any real hardcore diuretics.
Do you think fighters don't think about the long-term effect? I mean, not even long. I mean, long-term, yes, because when you're doing these humongous cuts, you're possibly damaging the liver and the kidney by doing this, and you're possibly allowing for kidney failure in an event like this. Like, do you think fighters just don't care, don't seem to want to care about that possibility later in their life, and are willing to take the risk and really roll the dice with a serious?
It's not a question about do they care. It's just they really focus on what they're trying to accomplish. And now, if you're a young kid or a young fighter that's not really thinking about that, they're thinking about trying to make it to the next step in their career and to be the best that they possibly can. And if this is the way that they're going to do it, that's how they got to do it. There's no real. It's like it's like when, honestly, I don't want to bring it to the steroid factor, but like you got bodybuilders that are trying to make it to the next level, try to be an IFBB pro or Olympia champion. You think that they care about how much, if they're taking 2 grams of testosterone a week? You think they really care what's going on as long as they can make it to the next level and be the best that they possibly can be? They're taking risks. They're taking calculated risks. But obviously, it's not the most intelligent risk. But at the end of the day, if you're a true hardcore competitor, a lot of those risks you put out of your mind because you're trying to be the best you possibly can be. Now, is that something safe to do? Is that something smart to do? Obviously not. But at the end of the day, if you're a true athlete, true fighter, true competitor, this type of stuff you don't really worry about until you get later on in your career, until you start really focusing in on the end of your career and what's going to happen after your career. Or if you have a family, or if you have, responsibilities other than yourself, where a fighter in nature, you have to be somewhat selfish. And this goes into the coaching and the competitor side. If you're a coach, you're very selfless. And when you're a fighter, you're very selfish. It doesn't mean that you're self-centered. That doesn't mean that you care about nothing but yourself. But you have to truly be focused on you, or you're not going to be the best that you can be.
I mean, speaking of needing to worry and think about things, and yeah, another story that came out this week was Ronda Rousey's lead coach, head coach, whatever you want to call him, handler, I don't know what it is, manager, Edmond Tarvardyan came out with he'd like Ronda to have one more match and to have it against Cyborg Justino. What the hell is wrong with this man? You guys at ATT, prepared Amanda Nunes to obliterate this woman, and to me, Cyborg's like an even bigger version of Amanda Nunes. What the hell is this guy thinking? I feel like he's probably on hard times. She's probably done. She's probably finished. Gonna go do WWE now, which is a strong.
Yeah, that's it.
He's gonna do wrestling.
Pretty
he
much
needs the money.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. He's trying to milk everything he can out of that girl, and to be honest, he's really gonna get her damaged and hurt to where she can't do anything else. So she should definitely not listen to that fool, and he needs to go somewhere. He needs to crawl in a cave somewhere and chill out. But truly though, he doesn't have, and I'm not just saying that because of the whole with Amanda beating her ass and things like that, but it's really just a fact of like you're not a great coach, you're not even a good coach. You shouldn't even be coaching if you're going to give advice like that and really put somebody that trusts in you in harm's way like that, because she really is going to be put in harm's way if she goes against Cyborg, especially now after her mindset is set on being in wrestling and doing acting and things like that. She's not a fighter no more. It's over. You know what I mean? So you have to take your losses and try to build somewhere else, or try to do something in kickboxing or some shit. But he definitely needs to go somewhere else with that.
And what's crazy is, he deserves some credit for helping build her. Because he did. He took a high-level grappler and he gave her gave her what she needed. Because in the end, she still used her, whatever he was teaching her, to get close in and set up her jab to, get people and throw them. But, he deserves tons of no credit because he did not grow with her. Like, she didn't grow. Like, she got better as a striker, but, not enough that was... What happened?
Listen, he taught her the fundamentals of kickboxing. That's it. Yeah. That's all he taught her. Mm-hmm. What she did was what she was physically capable of doing, because nobody knew how to stop that at that time. She was brand new. Female MMA was brand new, it was like, and she was the most talented at one aspect of MMA, where other girls didn't come from that caliber of style or that higher caliber. She was an Olympian, where she was probably the only Olympian that was really dominating in that level. So for her to come in the game and completely dominate and demolish every girl that was in there can be a little bit easy when you don't have any real solid competitor that'll actually match that talent that she had. Where obviously, I think if Gina Carano would have fought her, we would have seen something. Maybe it would have been a good matchup. But I think Gina Carano probably could have took her if she didn't get taken down.
No, I agree.
Maybe because I got a crush on Gina Carano. Let me just stop.
That was the
first
favorite female fighter was Elite Extreme. Oh my! I saw a recent picture of her and Chandler and Fedor at some kind of event this week. I was like, damn, she still look good.
Yeah, man. I see that. I know, man. She was. Anyways, sidetrack. So back to what we were talking about. Yeah, and if Cyborg would eventually have fought her, it would have been even worse. Amanda just got to her first and exposed her, and that's what's up. So.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, he's gonna take a lot of heat for what happened with her career, lack of growth, all those kind of things, not doing enough with her. But I think the most damning thing, and that part of it is kind of Ronda's fault, because she is too attractive, and that they brought Travis Brown in there, and that man got ruined. Like, he was in Greg Jackson's camp.
Yeah,
he was unbelievable. He was a title contender.
For sure.
Camps for the punani because it's probably good, and he just he went from contender, legitimate heavyweight contender to just he's like on his way to probably get released. So I'm surprised he honestly
He
hasn't been released by the UFC.
He needs to retire, man. Like after watching him, he fought my guy Alexi, the last fight I seen him, and we honestly, man, he didn't look good at all. You know, and mind you, Alexi a fucking machine. I don't know what that guy drives off of. He's Russian, so you know, but yeah, I was like, what the hell, man? That wasn't even Travis Brown, dog. We were really like, I wouldn't say we were worried, but we were definitely making sure that Alexi was fully prepared for the real Travis Brown, and that shit did not show up. And you know, good thing that Alexi did what he did and fucking, you know, demolished him after that. But like, man, truly though, he looked like a shell of his former self. So,
and I think, I think that's what happened with a lot of people of late. In his last few fights, they're thinking just like you guys have that, you know, he hasn't, that the guy that everybody's starting to get worried about as a contender hasn't showed up. Maybe this is the fight. Oh man, he's gonna be his old self that was a top fighter now, and then you guys get him and he's not quite that guy and he just gets knocked out or whatever, and he has like these such weird losses. Like he was leading in fights, like in the Derek Lewis fight he was winning early, then gets knocked out. And there's a couple of fights
you know what that is though, that's also a lack of focus and not a true definitive way of game planning. So that has to fall on the coach's, you know, shoulders. And I always say that because I'm a coach now. You know, if you're a coach, every loss that your fighter takes, that's on you. That's not on the fighter because you were supposed to get him ready to, you know, obviously it's up to them to you know, if you give them a blueprint, they got to go ahead and follow that blueprint. But at the same time, if you're a leader, if you're a coach that, you know, you put your time and effort in, then you have to take responsibilities, win or lose, for that fighter's, you know, performance.
I mean, yeah, nothing else to say. But moving on from that, we'll finish up with a focus on a little Bellator talk. You know, the first thing is it came out this week, which I'm freaking so excited for. It was announced Douglas Lima is gonna fight Rory McDonald for their welterweight title in January. I think that, to me, I think most of the MMA fans, and a lot of MMA fans are just UFC fans, unfortunately, but everybody knows about Rory McDonald, how super talented that guy is. He's still young. He's been in just epic wars, amazing fights. I think the world is really going to find out about Douglas Lima because Douglas Lima is one of the hidden gems in MMA right now. I mean, the guy's got a dominant win against Paul Daly, knocked out Andre Koreshkov, beat Lorenz Larkin in a fight everybody was looking forward to in MSG. You know, it's crazy. I think Rory's going to be the favorite for obvious reasons. He's just good. He's fought the elite level, but I don't know why. There's something in me that would not be surprised if Douglas Lima puts the world on notice and ends up beating Rory McDonald. I think he's that good.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about Douglas, man. Douglas is he's an American top team guy, but, you know, he's been dominating the scene for a while, just been really under the radar, you know, and very talented. He's well-rounded. He has a lot of upside. He's hungry still, and he has a brother that's just as talented, so they go at it all the time. And, you know, they got a coach out there by the name of Jucal, who fights in the UFC. Another American top team guy, and they got a pretty solid camp out there in Atlanta, you know. So I think he'll be well prepared, mind you. You know that, I mean, Rory is Rory, you know, and he's definitely going to be a hard puzzle to solve. But at the same time, you know, we may see something different. We may be able to maybe, you know. It's funny when people switch. A lot of the times, look at Ben Henderson. I go back to Ben Henderson, like, you know, people thought that because Henderson came from the UFC that when he fought Kaz and Bellator that he's just going to run through him, and that wasn't the case at all. So, and we've seen that a lot with a couple of the UFC guys going to Bellator, that it ain't sweet over there. You know what I mean? So we'll see what's up. But I'm pulling for him, and you know, we'll see what happens.
I mean, and it's an easy transition because we want to talk about Bellator. Bellator's got a fantastic card. I mean, and I don't feel like Bellator or UFC Japan's getting much play in the media this week. I mean, you know, UFC Japan has some good stuff going on, but Bellator has a fucking awesome card. I mean, you mentioned Ben Henderson. Let's just go right to Ben Henderson. Talk about what's crazy. And I wrote a story about when he signed with Bellator, and that was a huge signing because the guy's a former UFC champion, beat Frankie Edgar, been in there with Anthony Pettis, where Anthony Pettis was really on fire. Huge signing, and now in hindsight, he's important because he opened the door for guys to go, oh wow, there are greener pastures to make some good money. Someone else will go.
Yeah.
But his run at Bellator has been completely disappointing. I mean, Andre Koreshkov just put an ass whooping on him. Then he goes and fights Little Pitbull. Patricio, where everybody's like, oh, he's going to fight a 45, he's going to get good. Until Patricio gets injured, he's winning that fight and beating him up. Then he fights Michael Chandler. That was an interesting fight because if it was like a 7-round fight, I think it would have been interesting because he came on strong late, but he still got beat up by Michael Chandler and lost that fight. I mean, he's had a rather... Yeah.
Let me tell you, mind you, those guys are killers, man.
Yeah,
they're not, they could be dominant in the UFC. Yeah. But, it just so happens that they're in Bellator. Now, I hate to talk about this because, I was a Ben Henderson fan. I still am a Ben Henderson fan. He's a nice guy. I've met him a couple times. But at the same time, things change and people's mindset change. And especially when you're coming from such a dominant run I don't want to say like a predominantly higher promotion, but UFC obviously is more credible and has way more fans and things like that. So when you're coming from that, you kind of have a chip on your shoulder to the point where actually I wouldn't even say a chip on your shoulder. You're just more of a you think you're better than you actually are because you're coming down from another promotion, and that could negatively affect your performance. And I think that may have been it where he thought that maybe, and I don't want to speak for the man because I don't know, but at that point in time, you got to think like maybe he wasn't really training as hard as he did when he fought Pettis, or when he fought, for his title defenses that he had. Yeah, and even with his last fight with Pettis, he really was like, man, you didn't really put up a fight for that armbar, dude. Like, so I don't know. And I remember him talking about him wanting to go into the military.
Yes, I was gonna mention that too because he. And I was wondering, I'm going to ask you if he's an example of what I kind of mentioned earlier with George St. Pierre, and that he's a guy that had such success. Is once the fire is gone and you've reached, your goal and you become champion and defended it, like how that has affected him mentally. And like you said, he's talking about them going to the military. When a fighter seems to be talking about what's happening later in life, like they're not really caring about their fighting right now in life.
Yeah, you really start to see that about 2 or 3 fights, prior to them leaving the sport. So for him to say that, and he's still fighting, and it's been like 3 or 4 fights after the fact, that he really just doesn't know what he wants to do, or at least from my perspective, that's what he wants. That's what's going on, So
it's like he likes being a fighter, he likes the training, but to do this kind of work, you need to love it. You need to be passionate.
And you have to be, and it's funny because JJ said this tonight, and she was like, you have to be obsessed. If you want to be the best, you have to be obsessed. Yeah. And for anybody that doesn't know who JJ is, Joanna Young Jacek, the most dominant female fighter.
Podcast, former guest. But I don't know about you, but I think this is a dangerous fight for Ben Henderson. Patricky Pitbull's like one of those guys. He's like Michael Bisping was in the UFC. Like he's a good fighter. Like he's always been around. He's kind of the guy that always gets close to a title shot but can't get over the hump kind of thing. This is a dangerous guy. Like he's a heavy hitter, big puncher, and the thing is, Ben, he can be had and that he can be hurt and finished, which Michael Chandler did devastatingly to him. But Ben Henderson is not a big puncher, and his takedown game isn't what it was. So I think this is a dangerous fight for Ben Henderson. I think this is definitely another fight he could easily lose again.
If he loses this fight, I think he's done. Yeah. He should, or at least he should be out. And honestly, if he goes to military, he's always had a career. Like, people got to understand when their time is up. Yep. It's tough. I understand that. I know, especially at that highest level that he was at. But you got to understand, like, get out when the time is right, and get out when you're on top, at least, or at least notice when you're declining. And once that happens, then you got to get out of there, because either you're gonna get hurt or you're gonna go into deep depression. And we don't want none of that. So you definitely got. And there's other means to make money in the sport. There's other means, and you can still be a part of the sport, still, be a great influence to individuals. You just don't have to step into a cage or an octagon and show your worth when you're not physically capable of doing it or mentally capable of doing it.
Now, another fight on the card is Javier Ayala versus Roy Nelson, who's making his debut. What's crazy is that Javier Ayala has not fought in a long time, and I know that because I was at his last fight. I was at the Bellator card in Connecticut where he knocked out Sergey Karatanov and made people go, holy, who's Javier Ayala, and what the hell happened to Sergey Karatanov? So he's fighting Roy Nelson. That's an interesting fight. I mean, that's a dangerous fight. Ayala's a young guy up and coming. What's crazy is when you look at Roy Nelson's, like, his resume in the last, 3-4 years, he has a lot more losses than he has wins, but he has a lot of losses against top level guys. Like, he doesn't have any.
Well, Roy go out there and put it all on the line. He don't really give a fuck, you know what I mean? And either if he's knocking you out or he's getting knocked out, one way or another, he's gonna go all in and he's gonna train his ass off. And I know that I know Mo went out there and trained with him a little bit in Vegas, and so he's definitely game. And he wants to win, and he wants to still fight. And he's one of those guys that isn't like 1 foot out the door type guys. But at the same time, if this doesn't end well for him, then maybe he needs to figure out what he wants to do. But I'm always pulling for a Roy Nelson because, listen, man, anybody who doesn't like a fat guy trying to make it happen, you know what I'm saying? With the belly like that, if you ain't knocking somebody else out, I don't know what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? So he's got the dad bod before the dad bods, you know what I'm saying? Before it came out, so and he rocks the mullet well still, so can't really get mad at him.
You know who's my favorite all-time dad bod, and he's also one of my all-time favorite fighters. I love the Fedor Emelianenko dad bod.
Yeah, man, he's infamous. He's the infamous dad bod killer.
He's a dad bod who looks like he just woke up from the nap, which is a perfect combination.
And when he steps in the ring or the cage, he's
I want to see.
It's time to go. Okay, let's go.
Clean the sand out of his eyes, while he's standing in the corner getting announced. Like, I just amazing. But I mean, another.
Well, that's what that is though. That's comfortability in the face of true adversity, or within. He's definitely complacent in chaos. Yeah. So it's cool to see, but it's also like, wow, it's kind of amazing. To be that nonchalant when you're about to fight somebody.
That's the that there's few fighters in any sport that have a true aura, and he's always been one of those guys, even now, well past his prime, when he's not really beating anybody of relevancy anymore. He's still a guy everyone wants to see because he's got that.
He's a legend. Yeah, he's a legend. Yeah. Everybody. I mean, like you said, and remember Sandlot? Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. Come on now. The legend never dies. You know what I'm saying? No matter what.
He's like the dog on the other side. Like when you see him in person, it's like,
he's Hercules. He's Hercules.
When you hear about him, it's like this mythical creature. He's like mythical to like the new fans. Like, well, Fedor, I don't know about him. Like he's like Cher. You call him by the first name, Fedor. It's special like that. But
you don't even say his last name. That's how you know.
Oh yeah, you don't.
People don't even say your name. Like
Michael. You don't say Michael Joe. You say Michael. Or Kobe. Fedor. That's not unbelievable. He's one of the greatest players ever. But another good fight on the card is Goichi Yamauchi versus Adam Piccolo. That's actually a really good fight. Again, two fighters that are on the radar, but they're like definitely on the prime and on the precipice of probably getting a title shot, especially with everything up in the air with Brett Primus and Michael Chandler. Like, those are two guys that are right there, top young fighters, especially Yamauchi. I mean, Adam Piccolo is a good, really good young fighter, 9-0. Yamauchi, I've seen a lot of his fights. He's very exciting, great ground game, high-level finisher. But the fight I really wanted to ask you about, and this is probably the marquee fight on this card, is Lorenz Larkin in his second bout in Bellator against Paul Daly. What's your thoughts on that fight? Like, who are you picking in that kind of a fight?
Oh man, you know what? I was a Paul Daly fan from when I was a kid, watching him back in the day I think he was fighting for like Cage Rage or something like that in Bama. And man, but Lorenz Larkin is a straight killer, man. I like that dude. I like his style. Even when he was in the UFC, when he fought out of weight class, I could tell that he definitely needed to go and go into a different weight class. And now he's at that 170. He's at 170, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's at
85. Your boy King Mo at one point. How is that even possible?
Who? Larkin?
Yeah, King Mo knocked him out.
He did.
Yeah, this was back in
I gotta talk to Mo.
When he was
yeah, I'm sure. Well, see, that's Mo got some hammers in his fucking hands, but like, but the skill of Larkin plus the skill of Daly, man, it's gonna be a good fight.
Yeah.
It's gonna be very very competitive.
And
So and it'll be skillful. But you know what may happen though,
yeah.
which always does seem to happen, is that when both are very skillful, nothing happens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like, okay, everybody's real cautious because, so it kind of equals out.
Yeah.
And you may not see anything, you know what I'm saying, until, it's too late. So we'll see. But I am looking forward to that fight, actually.
Yeah, because it's Paul Daly kind of really needs a win. Like, he's hit a bit of his head. He lost to Douglas Lee. Yeah. No shame in that at all. I mean, he's got the beef with Michael Venom Page. That's the fight everybody wants.
How you going to call somebody out and then not fight him?
Exactly. And then now Michael Page is on his ass about it, and he can't say nothing. Now I saw a recent quote that, the fight will happen, but, yeah, I don't know. It seemed like, I don't know if he wants that fight.
Nah, he don't want none of Venom right now. That's not happening.
That's the crazy thing. But and then the thing about it, he still has that big power, which I mean, to this day, I will battle anyone debate that him versus Nick Diaz best one round in MMA.
Oh yeah, that was fucking phenomenal.
But he still got the sick power, and Lorenz Larkin isn't a one-hitter quitter. Like, he's an accumulation kind of guy. So that's a dangerous fight for both of them. Like, Lorenz Larkin has the speed advantage. He can get in and out. He has the kicks and everything like that. But boy, he's still a guy that can.
See, Larkin has dexterity in his kicks, so he can hit you with anything from anywhere. And Paul's very tactical. Yeah. He's a technician. So we'll see. But I honestly think it's going to be like a stalemate, and we're not going to see anything. Hopefully I'm wrong, but we'll see.
Yeah, because, I mean, the Douglas Lima versus Larkin fight was cool, but it wasn't as good as I think a lot of fans hope, because just like you said, like, they're so good, it ends up being such a careful, measured kind of fight where guys respect each other so much they don't take the chances that they might other opponents, and that could very well happen. But I mean, that's pretty much it for everything on FSP Overtime. Do you have any final thoughts for the people listening? Final words? Anything you want to give out there? You the usual, the social media, but anything you want to, any knowledge bombs you want to lay on the world while they're listening?
Nah, man, that's time for me to go to sleep, man. I've been up, grinding 18 hours. I'm ready to go. So, but also make sure you catch that Fight Strength podcast coming out pretty soon. Episode, what are we on, 16 now? We're rolling pretty hard.
Cheat coming up in a couple of days.
No, for sure. So catch that, and then if you have any questions for me, you can hit me up at my email, phil@darushawn.com, and check out my website. I'll be doing some more blogging on that as well, and just keeping it going. So, anything for you, Jason?
I'm very complicated. You got the Cheap Seats Chat on Twitter. You can follow me there. Jericho Vendetta on Instagram. I need some followers. Please help a brother out. But, don't forget Fight Strength Podcast on Facebook, Fight Strength _ on Twitter. You want to listen to older episodes of the show or previous FSP Overtime, you can go on iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, YouTube, Google Play Music. We're all across the world, all across the globe. That is it for us. I am Jason Burgos. He's the bearded Aristotle. Bye-bye.